The nurse ran into the cafeteria and screamed, "Who gave Jessica the peanut butter sandwich?" Nurse Grayson's face was sheet white, not pale, not shocked. White like all the blood had drained straight out of her body and pooled somewhere around her feet. She stood in the cafeteria doorway, gripping the frame so hard her knuckles looked like they might split the skin. Her scrubs had vomit on them. Fresh vomit, still wet, dark against the blue fabric. 300 students stopped mid-bite, mid-conversation, mid-laugh. The entire cafeteria went silent except for the hum of the industrial refrigerators and someone's fork clattering against their tray. Nurse Grayson's chest was heaving like she'd sprinted the entire way from her office. Her eyes scanned the room wildly, desperately, landing on nothing and everything at once. Then she screamed it again, louder this time, her voice cracking on Jessica's name. "Who gave Jessica the peanut butter sandwich? She's dying right now, and I need to know who gave it to her." My stomach dropped so fast I thought I might throw up. I was holding half a peanut butter sandwich. The other half was gone, eaten 10 minutes ago during first lunch period. I'd made it this morning. 2 pieces of whole wheat bread, Skippy creamy peanut butter, strawberry jam. I'd wrapped it in aluminum foil and put it in my backpack like I did every single day. But I hadn't eaten it during first lunch. I'd been in the library working on my history project. I'd left my backpack at my usual table, the one by the windows in the back corner where my friend group always sat. When I came back for second lunch, my sandwich was gone. I'd assumed someone had thrown it away by mistake or that I'd somehow lost it. I'd bought cafeteria pizza instead. Now Nurse Grayson was screaming about Jessica dying and peanut butter, and I was holding evidence that might explain why. My hand started shaking. The sandwich felt like it weighed 50 pounds. Around me, students were whispering, confused, scared. Some were standing up to get a better look at Nurse Grayson. Others were frozen in place. I knew I needed to say something. Needed to stand up and admit that the sandwich was probably mine. But my throat had closed up and my legs wouldn't move. And all I could think was that Jessica was dying because of something I'd brought to school. Jessica Thornton, freshman. Severe peanut allergy. Everyone knew about it. She wore a medical alert bracelet. She carried 2 EpiPens everywhere. There were signs posted in every classroom and the cafeteria about her allergy. The school had banned peanut products from being sold in the cafeteria 3 years ago when she enrolled, but they couldn't ban students from bringing their own lunches. Couldn't control what we packed from home. The policy was that students with outside food containing peanuts had to sit at designated tables on the far side of the cafeteria, away from allergy risk students. I always sat at those tables. Always followed the rules. But today my sandwich had disappeared and now Jessica was dying. Principal Vance appeared behind Nurse Grayson, his phone pressed to his ear, his free hand on her shoulder trying to steady her. His face was grim, focused. He was talking to someone, probably 911, giving the school address, saying something about anaphylaxis and unresponsive patient. The words hit like punches. Unresponsive. Jessica wasn't just having a reaction. She was unconscious. Maybe worse. Nurse Grayson pushed away from the doorframe and stepped fully into the cafeteria. Her eyes were still scanning, still searching. Someone gave her that sandwich. Someone handed it to her or left it where she could take it. Jessica knows better than to eat anything she didn't bring herself. Someone did this. Her voice broke on the last word. It wasn't quite an accusation. It was worse. It was grief. It was terror. It was the sound of an adult who'd watched a child stop breathing and couldn't fix it. I stood up. The movement was automatic, mechanical. My brain hadn't caught up to what my body was doing. The sandwich was still in my hand. Nurse Grayson's eyes locked onto it immediately, then traveled up to my face. I watched recognition dawn in her expression, followed by something that looked like betrayal. She knew me. I'd been to her office dozens of times over the years for headaches, twisted ankles, passes to leave class when my period cramps got too bad. She knew I was careful, knew I always sat at the peanut tables, knew I followed every rule. But now I was standing there holding peanut butter and her patient was dying. "That's mine," I managed to say. My voice sounded strange, distant, like it belonged to someone else. "I made that sandwich this morning. I left my backpack at my table during first lunch. When I came back, it was gone. I didn't give it to Jessica. I don't even know her. I wouldn't." The cafeteria erupted. Students started talking all at once, some pointing at me, others standing up to get away from me like I was contagious. My best friend Zoe grabbed my arm, her face pale. "Riley, what the hell? You brought peanut butter? You know the rules." "I've brought it every day for 3 years," I said, pulling my arm away. "I always sit at the peanut tables. I always follow protocol. Someone took my sandwich. Someone took it and gave it to Jessica." But even as I said it, I could hear how it sounded, like an excuse, like I was trying to shift blame for something I'd caused. Principal Vance was moving toward me now, his phone call finished, his expression unreadable. Nurse Grayson followed him, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. Behind them, I could see other teachers entering the cafeteria, drawn by the commotion. Mr. Davis, the vice principal, Mrs. Cho, my English teacher, Officer Brennan, our school resource officer. This was escalating faster than I could process. "Riley Atkinson," Principal Vance said when he reached my table. His voice was calm but firm, The tone adults use when they're trying not to panic you but absolutely need your compliance. I need you to come with me right now. Bring that sandwich. Don't touch anything else. I picked up my lunch tray with my free hand, the sandwich still clutched in the other. Zoe was staring at me like she didn't recognize me. Other students at my table, people I'd known since elementary school, were leaning away, creating distance, already deciding I was guilty. Principal Vance led me out of the cafeteria through the side door, the one that connected to the administrative hallway. Nurse Grayson stayed behind, probably to question other students, to find out if anyone had seen who took my sandwich. The hallway was empty and too quiet after the chaos of the cafeteria. My footsteps echoed. The sandwich felt alive in my hand, evidence of something terrible I'd accidentally caused. We passed the main office where the secretary, Mrs. Liu, looked up from her computer with wide, frightened eyes. Principal Vance gestured for me to keep moving. We went to the small conference room, the one used for parent meetings and disciplinary hearings. He closed the door behind us and gestured to a chair. Sit. I sat. He took the chair across from me and placed his phone on the table between us, screen up, ready to record or take notes. He looked exhausted suddenly, like he'd aged 10 years in the last 10 minutes. Tell me exactly what happened. From this morning until now, everything. I told him, woke up at 6:30, made my lunch while my mom made coffee, 2 slices of wheat bread, peanut butter, jam, wrapped it in foil, put it in my backpack, caught the bus at 7:15. First period was chemistry, second period was history. During passing period before third period, which is my lunch, I went to the library instead of the cafeteria. I had a project due next week and needed to find sources. I left my backpack at my usual table in the cafeteria. I always sit at the same table, the one designated for students with peanut products. I've been sitting there since freshman year. Everyone knows that's where peanut allergy risk items go. Principal Vance wrote everything down in a small notebook he'd pulled from his pocket. His handwriting was surprisingly neat, precise. He didn't interrupt, just let me talk. When I finished, he looked up. Who sits at your table? I listed names: Zoe, Kayla, Devin, Luis. Sometimes Trevor when he brings peanut butter and jelly from home. 6 of us total, though not everyone was there during first lunch today. Kayla had been absent. Devin was at a doctor's appointment. It had been just me, Zoe, Luis, and Trevor at our table this morning, before I left for the library. And when you came back, for second lunch, my backpack was still there. My water bottle. My folder with homework in it. Everything except my sandwich. I thought maybe the custodian had thrown it away thinking it was trash. Sometimes they clear tables during the lunch switch if students leave stuff behind, so you didn't report it missing. I didn't think it was important. It was just a sandwich. I bought pizza instead. I gestured to my tray, which still had half a slice of greasy cafeteria pizza and some untouched baby carrots. Principal Vance studied the tray like it might contain answers. Then he looked at the sandwich I was still holding. That's the other half? The half you didn't eat during first lunch? No. I made 2 sandwiches this morning. This one I made for after school. I always make 2. One for lunch, one for when I get home before dinner. I pack them separately. This one was in the front pocket of my backpack. The other one, the one I made for lunch, that's the one that went missing. He wrote that down. 2 sandwiches. One missing from main compartment during first lunch. One still in front pocket, uneaten. Then he looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Suspicion? Concern? Both? Riley, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Did you give Jessica that sandwich? Did you give it to her directly, or leave it somewhere you knew she'd find it? No. I'd never met her face to face. I knew who she was because everyone knew about her allergy, but we'd never spoken. We didn't share any classes. She was a freshman. I was a junior. Our paths didn't cross. I had no reason to give her anything. Principal Vance's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his face went even paler. He stood up abruptly. Stay here, don't move. Don't talk to anyone. He left, closing the door behind him. I heard the lock click. I was being contained, kept away from other students while they figured out what had happened. The conference room had a small window that looked out at the parking lot. I could see an ambulance in the circle drive, lights flashing but no siren. Paramedics were loading someone on a stretcher into the back. Even from this distance, I could see the person was small, young. Jessica. She was still alive then, still breathing. That had to mean something. I sat there for what felt like hours but was probably 20 minutes. My phone was in my backpack, which was still in the cafeteria. I had no way to contact my mom, no way to tell her what was happening, no way to text Zoe and ask if she'd seen anything. The silence was suffocating. Finally, the door opened. Officer Brennan came in first, followed by Principal Vance and a woman I didn't recognize. She was in her 40s, wearing a dark suit, carrying a leather briefcase. She had the look of someone official, someone from outside the school. Detective Paulson, she introduced herself, extending her hand. I'm with the Juvenile Division. I need to ask you some questions about what happened today. Juvenile Division. They thought this was criminal. They thought I deliberately poisoned Jessica. My hands started shaking again. I put the sandwich down on the table carefully, like it might explode. I didn't do anything wrong. I brought my lunch to school like I do every day. Someone took it, I don't know who or why, but I didn't give anything to Jessica. Detective Paulson sat down across from me and opened her briefcase, pulling out a legal pad and a recorder. She placed the recorder on the table. I need to record this conversation. You're not under arrest. You're not being charged with anything right now. But we need to document everything while it's fresh. Do you understand? I nodded. She pressed record and stated the date, time, location, and names of everyone present. Then she looked at me. Tell me about your relationship with Jessica Thornton. I don't have a relationship with her. I've never spoken to her, never been in the same room as her except in passing in hallways. Detective Paulson wrote that down. Have you ever had any conflict with her? Any argument? Any disagreement? Anything that might make you want to harm her? No. I don't even know her friends. I don't know what classes she's in. I know she has a peanut allergy because the whole school knows. That's it. Do you have any connection to her family? No. Are you friends with any of her friends? I don't know who her friends are. Detective Paulson changed tactics. Walk me through your morning. I repeated everything I'd told Principal Vance, made the sandwich, came to school, left my backpack at my table, went to the library, came back, sandwich was gone. She asked follow-up questions. What time exactly did I leave my backpack? Around 11:05. First lunch period started at 11. What time did I return? 11:38. Second lunch period started at 11:40. Who else was in the library? 3 other students I didn't know well. The librarian, Mrs. Franco. Could anyone verify I was there the entire time? Probably. Mrs. Franco had seen me. I'd asked her for help finding a book on World War I propaganda posters. She wrote all of it down. Officer Brennan stood near the door, arms crossed, watching me like I might try to run. Principal Vance sat in the corner, his face unreadable. Detective Paulson pulled out a clear evidence bag and carefully placed my remaining sandwich inside using gloves she'd produced from her briefcase. This will be tested. We need to confirm it contains peanuts and compare it to what Jessica ingested. Then she pulled out her phone and showed me a photo. This is what Jessica was eating when she collapsed. Do you recognize this? The photo showed half a sandwich on a cafeteria tray. Wheat bread. Something brown smeared between the slices. It looked identical to what I'd made that morning. The foil was even the same, crumpled and pushed to the side of the tray. That looks like my sandwich. The foil, the bread. I use that brand because my mom buys it in bulk, but I can't be certain from just a photo. Detective Paulson showed me another photo. This one was of my lunch table in the cafeteria, taken from above, probably by security cameras. She zoomed in on a backpack. That's my backpack, I confirmed. Black Jansport with a blue keychain on the zipper. The photo had a timestamp. 11:08 a.m., 3 minutes after I'd left for the library. Another photo, same angle, different timestamp. 11:23. My backpack was still there, but now someone was standing next to the table. A girl with long dark hair wearing a green jacket. I couldn't see her face clearly from the angle. Do you know her? Detective Paulson asked. I squinted at the screen. The image quality wasn't great. Maybe. I couldn't tell. Another photo, 11:26. The girl was gone. My backpack looked disturbed, the main pocket unzipped. One more photo, 11:31. Jessica Thornton sitting at a table on the opposite side of the cafeteria. In front of her was a sandwich on a tray. Half eaten, the foil visible next to it. Detective Paulson let that sink in. 7 minutes between the unidentified girl at your table and Jessica eating what appears to be your sandwich. We need to identify this girl. She pointed at the green jacket. We're pulling more footage now, trying to get a clearer image of her face, but I need to know if you recognize her from what you can see here. The build, the hair, anything. I studied the image. The girl was average height, thin, dark hair past her shoulders. The green jacket was oversized, military style. It looked vaguely familiar, but I couldn't place it. Dozens of students wore jackets like that. Half the school shopped at the same thrift stores. I don't know, maybe someone from my grade? But I can't tell from this angle. Detective Paulson put her phone away. We'll get a clearer image. In the meantime, I need you to think very carefully. Is there anyone who might want to set you up? Anyone with a grudge against you or against Jessica? Anyone who would benefit from both of you being in trouble? I couldn't think of anyone. I wasn't popular enough to have enemies. I had my small friend group, got decent grades, played soccer but wasn't a star. I'd never been in a fight, never had drama with other students. I was invisible in the best way possible. What about Jessica? I asked. Who are her friends? Who does she eat lunch with normally? Detective Paulson exchanged a look with Principal Vance. He shifted in his chair uncomfortably. Jessica eats alone. She has severe social anxiety along with her medical conditions. She sits by herself at a table near the nurse's office exit so she can get help quickly if needed. She brings her own lunch every day, prepared by her parents in a peanut-free kitchen. She's extremely careful. That's why this is so concerning. Jessica wouldn't have accepted food from anyone unless she trusted them completely, or unless she thought it was safe. The pieces weren't connecting. If Jessica ate alone and was hyper-vigilant about her allergy, how did my sandwich end up on her tray? Who was the girl in the green jacket, and why would she take my sandwich and give it to Jessica? None of it made sense. Unless... The thought hit me like cold water. Unless someone wanted to hurt Jessica and knew they could use my sandwich to do it. Frame me in the process. But who would want to hurt a freshman with severe allergies? What would be the point? Detective Paulson was watching my face. What are you thinking? I told her my theory. She wrote it down without commenting on whether she thought I was right. Then Principal Vance's phone rang. He answered, listened, and his face went from pale to gray. He hung up and looked at Detective Paulson. Jessica's in critical condition. They had to intubate her in the ambulance. She's not responsive. They're saying the next few hours are crucial. The room tilted. Critical condition. Intubated. This had gone from serious to potentially fatal. If Jessica died, this became a homicide investigation. And I was the primary suspect because my sandwich was the weapon. I need to call my mom, I said. My voice sounded small, young. I need my mom here. Detective Paulson nodded. We'll call her. But first, I need you to give me a list of everyone who knew you'd be in the library during first lunch. Everyone who knew your backpack would be unattended. I tried to think. Zoe knew. I'd told her yesterday I needed to work on my project. Kayla might have known, but she was absent today. Devin knew, but he was at the doctor. Luis might have overheard. Trevor, maybe. But none of them would do this. None of them had any reason to hurt Jessica or frame me. I gave Detective Paulson the names anyway. She wrote them all down, then stood. I need to speak with these students. Riley, you're going to stay here with Officer Brennan while we conduct interviews. Your mother is being called now. She should be here within the hour. Don't discuss this case with anyone. Don't post on social media. Don't text your friends. This is an active investigation. I nodded numbly. Detective Paulson and Principal Vance left. Officer Brennan remained by the door, scrolling through his phone, deliberately not looking at me. I sat in the conference room chair and tried not to think about Jessica Thornton fighting for her life in a hospital because of a sandwich I'd made that morning. Tried not to think about the girl in the green jacket whose face I couldn't see. Tried not to think about how my entire life had imploded in the span of 40 minutes. My mom arrived 53 minutes later. I heard her voice in the hallway before I saw her, raised and angry, demanding to see me immediately. Officer Brennan opened the door, and she burst through, her work badge still clipped to her blazer, her hair pulled back in the messy bun she wore when she was stressed. Riley, baby, are you okay? Did they hurt you? Did they question you without me here? She rounded on Officer Brennan. She's a minor. You can't question her without a parent or lawyer present. That's illegal. Officer Brennan held up his hands. She wasn't arrested, ma'am. She cooperated voluntarily. But you're here now, and Detective Paulson will want to speak with you before deciding next steps. My mom pulled me into a hug so tight I couldn't breathe. Her perfume smelled like safety and normalcy and everything that had existed before Nurse Grayson screamed in the cafeteria. When she pulled back, her eyes were wet. Tell me what happened. Tell me everything, I told her. She listened without interrupting, her face cycling through shock, confusion, anger, and finally grim determination. When I finished, she stood and faced Officer Brennan. My daughter is not saying another word without a lawyer present. We're leaving. Now. Officer Brennan shook his head. She's not under arrest, but she's not free to leave either. She's being detained as a material witness and person of interest. You can stay with her, but she needs to remain available for questioning. Material witness, person of interest. Legal terms that meant I was one step away from being charged. My mom's face went hard. Then get your detective back in here. We're going to clear this up right now because my daughter didn't do anything wrong. She followed school policy. She brought her lunch, sat at the designated table, and someone stole from her. She's a victim here, not a perpetrator. Detective Paulson returned 20 minutes later with Principal Vance and another man I didn't recognize. The man was in his 50s, wearing khakis and a polo shirt, carrying a folder thick with papers. Dr. Whitmore, he introduced himself. I'm the superintendent of the school district. I've been briefed on the situation. This is unprecedented and extremely serious. We need to determine exactly what happened and ensure it never happens again. My mom didn't let him finish his prepared speech. My daughter brought peanut butter to school, which is allowed under district policy, as long as it's consumed at designated tables. She followed that policy. Someone stole her lunch and weaponized it against another student. That makes Riley a victim, not a criminal. You need to be investigating who took her sandwich and why, not treating her like she's guilty. Dr. Whitmore shifted uncomfortably. Mrs. Atkinson, I understand your concern, but the reality is that Riley's lunch directly caused another student's critical medical emergency. Regardless of intent, there are consequences. We need to determine if Riley exercised appropriate caution with her lunch, if she secured it properly, if she followed all safety protocols. My mom's voice went ice cold. Are you suggesting that a 17-year-old girl is responsible for someone stealing from her backpack? That's victim blaming and you know it. Detective Paulson intervened. We've reviewed the security footage. We have a clearer image of the girl who was near Riley's backpack. She pulled out her phone and showed us a new photo. This one was zoomed in, enhanced, showing the girl's face in profile. She was young, maybe 14 or 15. Dark hair, pale skin, sharp features. She looked vaguely familiar, but I still couldn't place her. My mom leaned in. Who is she? Principal Vance answered. That's Vanessa Corey. She's a freshman. She's in Jessica's grade. They share several classes. This changes everything. Detective Paulson showed us more footage. Vanessa approaching my table at 11:23. Vanessa's hand reaching into my backpack. Vanessa pulling out the foil-wrapped sandwich. Vanessa walking across the cafeteria. Vanessa stopping at Jessica's table. The two girls talking briefly. Vanessa placing the sandwich on Jessica's tray. Vanessa walking away. Jessica opening the foil. Jessica taking a bite. The timestamps told the story. 11:23 to 11:34. 11 minutes from theft to ingestion. It was all there. Recorded. Documented. Proof that I hadn't given Jessica anything. Proof that Vanessa had taken my sandwich deliberately and given it to Jessica. But it raised more questions than it answered. Why would Vanessa do this? Did she know about the peanuts? Did she know about Jessica's allergy? Was this attempted murder or a tragic accident? Detective Paulson had the same questions. We brought Vanessa in for questioning an hour ago. She's in another conference room with her parents and a lawyer. She's refusing to speak without immunity. Her lawyer's claiming she didn't know there were peanuts in the sandwich, that she thought she was doing Jessica a favor because Jessica had forgotten her lunch. My mom scoffed. That's obviously a lie. Everyone knows Jessica brings her own lunch. Everyone knows about her allergy. This was deliberate. Dr. Whitmore cleared his throat. Actually, we can't prove intent. Vanessa's lawyer is arguing that she's new to the school this year, that she didn't know about Jessica's allergy, that she saw what she thought was an abandoned sandwich and gave it to a classmate she knew had forgotten her lunch. It's plausible deniability. That's insane, I said. Jessica never forgets her lunch. She's famous for being careful, and Vanessa had to unzip my backpack to get the sandwich. That's not finding something abandoned. That's theft. Detective Paulson nodded. I agree, but proving malicious intent is difficult. We need more evidence. We need to establish motive. Why would Vanessa want to hurt Jessica? What's the connection between them? Principal Vance pulled out his own folder. I've been reviewing both girls' files. Jessica and Vanessa have had multiple conflicts this semester. Jessica filed 2 complaints with the office about Vanessa harassing her in science class, name-calling, excluding her from group projects, spreading rumors, nothing physical, nothing that rose to the level of serious disciplinary action, but documented pattern of bullying. The pieces clicked into place. Vanessa had been bullying Jessica. Jessica had reported it. Vanessa retaliated by trying to trigger her allergy. This wasn't an accident. This was attempted murder dressed up as a misunderstanding. My mom turned to Detective Paulson. You have your motive. You have video evidence of theft. You have documented history of harassment. Charge her. Arrest her. Get my daughter's name cleared. Detective Paulson looked troubled. It's not that simple. Vanessa's lawyer is good. He's already arguing that the harassment complaints were exaggerated, that teenage girls have drama, that his client made an innocent mistake. Without Vanessa confessing to knowing about the peanut allergy, we have circumstantial evidence, but not proof of intent. And there's another problem. She pulled out another photo. This one showed my lunch table during first lunch period, timestamp 11:16. Someone else was at the table. Someone I recognized immediately. Trevor. He was standing next to my backpack, his hand inside the main compartment. My stomach dropped. Trevor had also accessed my backpack during the window when the sandwich went missing. Detective Paulson showed another photo. Trevor pulling out my sandwich. Trevor unwrapping it slightly, looking inside. Trevor rewrapping it and putting it back. Then Vanessa approaching 7 minutes later. Vanessa taking the same sandwich. We have 2 people accessing your backpack, Detective Paulson said. Trevor claims he was looking for gum. Says he thought your bag was his because they look similar. Says he unwrapped the sandwich by mistake, realized it wasn't his, put it back. But his story gives Vanessa's lawyer ammunition. They're arguing that Trevor contaminated the evidence, that we can't prove the sandwich Vanessa took was the same one you made that morning, that Trevor could have switched it with a different sandwich. This is ridiculous, my mom said. You have video of Trevor putting the sandwich back and Vanessa taking it minutes later. It's obviously the same sandwich, Dr. Whitmore interjected. The district's lawyer is advising extreme caution. We have 3 students involved now. Riley, whose lunch was weaponized. Vanessa, who took the lunch and gave it to Jessica. Trevor, who accessed Riley's bag and handled the evidence. Any misstep in how we handle this could result in lawsuits from multiple families. We need to be absolutely certain about the chain of custody and intent before pressing charges. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Jessica was in critical condition, possibly dying, and they were worried about lawsuits and plausible deniability. I looked at Detective Paulson. What happens now? She closed her folder. We continue investigating. We interview more witnesses. We wait for Jessica's condition to stabilize so we can get her statement about what Vanessa said when she gave her the sandwich. We analyze the physical evidence, the sandwich wrapper, the contents. We build an airtight case. In the meantime, all 3 of you students are suspended pending the investigation. You'll attend classes remotely. You're not allowed on school grounds. Suspended. I was being punished for being a victim, for having my lunch stolen, for doing nothing wrong except making a peanut butter sandwich. My mom stood abruptly. This is unacceptable. You're suspending my daughter for being robbed? Dr. Whitmore's voice was apologetic but firm. It's administrative leave, not disciplinary suspension. It won't go on Riley's permanent record, but we need to separate the involved parties while we investigate. It's standard protocol. My mom grabbed my arm. We're leaving, and you'll be hearing from our lawyer. She pulled me out of the conference room, through the office, past Mrs. Liu, who looked away guiltily, out the main doors into the parking lot. The afternoon sun was too bright, too normal. Inside that building, Jessica was fighting for her life, and I was being treated like a criminal. The disconnect was nauseating. My mom didn't speak until we were in the car. She gripped the steering wheel hard enough that her knuckles went white. This is wrong. Everything about this is wrong. They're protecting themselves instead of protecting students. They're more worried about liability than justice. I stared out the window as she drove. The suburban streets looked exactly like they had this morning when I'd left for school. Same houses, same trees, same normalcy. But everything had changed. My phone buzzed constantly with texts. Zoe asking what happened. Other classmates spreading rumors. Someone had posted about the incident on social media already. The story was mutating, becoming less accurate with each retelling. Some versions had me deliberately poisoning Jessica. Others had me and Vanessa working together. None of them had the truth. My mom confiscated my phone when we got home. You're not engaging with any of that. Let them talk. The investigation will clear you. She called a lawyer, a family friend who specialized in education law. He listened to the story, asked detailed questions, and promised to contact the school and police department immediately. Then my mom made me eat dinner even though I wasn't hungry. Made me shower. Made me pretend everything was normal when nothing would ever be normal again. That night, lying in bed, I kept seeing Nurse Grayson's face. The terror in her eyes when she screamed Jessica's name. The vomit on her scrubs. The absolute conviction that someone had deliberately hurt her patient. I hadn't meant to hurt anyone. I just made lunch. But my sandwich had become a weapon. And a girl was dying because of something I'd packed that morning without thinking twice. My mom knocked on my door around 10. I just got a call from the hospital. Jessica's stable. She's still in ICU, still intubated, but the doctors say she'll survive. She's going to make it. Relief crashed over me so hard I started crying. Jessica would live. She'd survive. This wasn't going to be a murder investigation. My mom sat on the edge of my bed and held me while I sobbed. But even through the relief, I knew this wasn't over. Jessica would have permanent damage from the reaction, brain damage maybe, from oxygen deprivation, trauma definitely, and someone needed to be held accountable. The investigation continued for 3 weeks. I stayed home, attended classes online, watched from my laptop as my classmates moved on without me. Zoe visited once, but it was awkward. She didn't know what to say. Nobody did. Detective Paulson called with updates. They'd interviewed Trevor extensively. His story held up. He genuinely thought my backpack was his, had been looking for gum, had put the sandwich back immediately. He was cleared of any wrongdoing. But his involvement had complicated the timeline enough that Vanessa's lawyer continued arguing reasonable doubt. Vanessa maintained her story. She didn't know about the peanuts. She thought she was helping Jessica. The harassment complaints were just normal teenage drama blown out of proportion. She was a good student from a good family who made an innocent mistake. Her lawyer was building a narrative of tragedy without malice. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Jessica woke up. After 2 weeks in ICU, she regained consciousness. She couldn't speak because of the intubation damage to her throat, but she could write. And what she wrote changed everything. Detective Paulson called my mom to tell us. Jessica's statement was clear. Vanessa had approached her table during lunch, had told her that Riley Atkinson, a junior who sat at the peanut tables, had sent over a special sandwich for her, had said it was safe, made in a peanut-free kitchen, that Riley felt bad for Jessica eating alone and wanted to do something nice. Jessica had believed her because Vanessa said it came from the peanut tables, from someone who understood allergies. Jessica had eaten it without checking because she trusted the source. Vanessa had lied. Deliberately. Specifically. She'd used my name to gain Jessica's trust. She'd weaponized my reputation as someone careful about allergen protocols. This wasn't an accident. This was premeditated. Detective Paulson arrested Vanessa that afternoon, charged her as a juvenile with aggravated assault and reckless endangerment. The charges would likely be reduced as part of a plea deal, but there would be consequences. Juvenile detention, mandatory counseling, permanent record. Vanessa's lawyer tried to argue that she was just trying to get back at Jessica for reporting the harassment, that she didn't think the reaction would be that severe. But that admission of intent was enough. She knew about the allergy. She knew what would happen. She did it anyway. My suspension was lifted. I was allowed back to school. The district issued a formal apology to my family for the mishandling of the investigation. Dr. Whitmore personally apologized for suggesting I hadn't secured my lunch properly. The school implemented new policies, surveillance cameras in more locations, stricter enforcement of allergen protocols, education programs about food allergies, and the dangers of tampering with others' belongings. But walking back into school felt like entering a battlefield. Students stared. Some apologized for believing the rumors. Others avoided me entirely. Zoe tried to act like nothing had changed, but I could see the discomfort in her eyes. I'd become associated with something terrible, and that association didn't fade just because I was cleared. Jessica returned to school 6 weeks after the incident. She'd missed significant time, would need tutoring to catch up. Her voice was still raspy from the intubation. She walked with her parents, escorting her to and from classes for the first week, not trusting the school to keep her safe. I saw her in the hallway between third and fourth period on her first day back. Our eyes met briefly. I wanted to say something, to apologize even though I'd done nothing wrong, to acknowledge what she'd been through. But before I could speak, her mother stepped between us. Her expression was cold, protective, absolutely unwilling to let me near her daughter. "I understand you were cleared," she said quietly, "but your sandwich almost killed my daughter. Intentionally or not, you brought the weapon that someone used against her. I need you to stay away from Jessica. Permanently." I nodded. What else could I do? She was right. My sandwich had been the weapon. The fact that someone else had wielded it didn't change the damage done. Jessica and her mother walked away. I stood in the hallway watching them go, understanding that some things couldn't be fixed with investigations and apologies. Some damage was permanent. Trevor apologized to me the next week, cornered me by my locker, and explained that he genuinely hadn't meant to cause problems, that he felt terrible about complicating the investigation. I accepted his apology because what else was there to do? He'd made an honest mistake. But I noticed he started bringing his lunch in a distinctively colored bag after that. Bright orange, impossible to confuse with anyone else's. Vanessa pleaded guilty to reduced charges. Juvenile aggravated assault. She was sentenced to 18 months in juvenile detention, followed by probation. She'd be released before graduating high school. She'd get counseling, education, a second chance. She never apologized to Jessica, never acknowledged what she'd done beyond the bare minimum required by her plea deal. The school year ended. I took my finals online, still uncomfortable being in crowded spaces where anyone could access my belongings. I passed everything, maintained my grades, stayed on track for graduation. But something had changed. I'd learned that following rules didn't protect you, that doing everything right could still result in catastrophe, that your own carefully packed lunch could become a weapon in someone else's hands. Over the summer, my mom and I went to a family therapist, talked through what had happened, processed the trauma of being accused and investigated. The therapist said I had mild PTSD, hypervigilance around food, anxiety in cafeteria settings, difficulty trusting other students, all normal responses to an abnormal situation. Senior year started. I came back to school with a lunchbox that locked, a small padlock on the zipper, key on a chain around my neck. It looked paranoid. It probably was paranoid, but I couldn't bring myself to leave my lunch vulnerable again. Zoe and I had drifted apart over the summer. She'd made new friends, people who hadn't been involved in what she called the incident. I ate alone now at the peanut tables, with my locked lunchbox sitting next to me. Students still stared sometimes, still whispered. The girl whose sandwich almost killed someone. The girl who got Vanessa sent to juvie. The girl who couldn't be trusted with peanut butter. Jessica had transferred schools. Her family decided she needed a fresh start, somewhere without memories of choking in the cafeteria, somewhere she could feel safe. I understood. If I could have transferred, I might have. But my mom couldn't afford private school, and the other public schools in our district were farther away. So I stayed. Finished senior year, graduated, got accepted to college, moved forward because that's what you do. You survive, you adapt. You learn that the world is more dangerous and complicated than you thought, that good intentions mean nothing when the outcome is catastrophic, that sometimes you're collateral damage in someone else's revenge plot. 3 years later, I was home from college for winter break. My mom and I were grocery shopping when I saw her. Jessica Thornton. She was in the produce section with a man I assumed was her father, both of them carefully reading labels on prepackaged salads. She looked older, obviously. Almost 20. She'd grown her hair long. She was wearing multiple medical alert bracelets now, more than the single one from high school. When she looked up and saw me, I watched her face cycle through recognition, fear, and something else I couldn't name. I started to turn away, to give her space like her mother had asked years ago. But Jessica did something unexpected. She walked over. Her father followed close behind, protective but not intervening. "Riley," she said. Her voice was still slightly raspy. "I never thanked you." "For what?" "For not bringing peanut butter to school anymore. I heard you stopped after what happened. You didn't have to do that. It wasn't required. But you did it anyway." I had stopped. Changed my entire lunch routine. Switched to sunflower seed butter. It tasted different, wrong, but I couldn't stomach making peanut butter sandwiches anymore. Couldn't risk it happening again. It seemed like the least I could do, I said. Jessica nodded. "Vanessa got out of juvenile detention last year. Did you know?" I didn't. "She's in counseling. Court mandated. She wrote me a letter as part of her treatment. An apology. Her therapist made her do it. It wasn't sincere, but she acknowledged what she did, finally. That she knew about my allergy. That she wanted to hurt me. That she used your lunch as the weapon because it gave her cover. She'd planned it for weeks. I felt sick. Weeks of planning to use my sandwich as a murder weapon. "I'm sorry," I said. "I know you didn't do anything wrong," Jessica replied. "I know it wasn't your fault. But I needed you to know that I know. That I don't blame you. I never did. That I blamed the person who actually hurt me." Her father put a hand on her shoulder. "We should go." Jessica nodded. She looked at me one more time. "Take care of yourself, Riley." I watched them leave, Jessica's father pushing the cart, Jessica walking beside him, still careful, still cautious but alive, surviving, moving forward. That night, I told my mom about the encounter. She listened quietly, then said something that had taken me years to understand. Sometimes the worst things happen to good people who did nothing wrong. You brought lunch to school. That's all. Someone else turned it into a weapon. You're not responsible for their choices. Thanks for watching till the end. Make sure to subscribe and like to not miss the next story.